let's get down to business. Ha! Hi everybody, Carla here, and well, much ado has been made about the release of the live-action adaptation of Mulan, coming from Disney, of course. This movie was supposed to be released back in March. I remember being really excited because it was just a few days after my birthday, and I thought, what a better gift than getting to see one of my favorite movies, my favorite Disney movies of all time, being adapted into a live-action epic, really, because it looked really epic, and to have it come out near my birthday. So that would be an excellent thing, right? Except we are living in 2020, so there is no such thing as a theatrical release anymore, not really. And of course, then because of the pandemic and everything that happened, Mulan had to be postponed. It was postponed to July, and then when July didn't happen either, it was postponed until August, and then they said September, but then maybe not September, and it was a whole thing where in the end they ended up releasing it on Disney Plus. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know I'm not the biggest fan of Disney Plus. In general, I think there are too many streaming services, and I'm not particularly enthused about Disney Plus because I don't feel it has much new content that I would even be excited about, at least not yet. There are a few series that I'm waiting for, like the Cassian Andor series, that I'm actually really excited about, and when it comes out I will subscribe to Disney Plus, but as of now I don't. I really only subscribed just the once before this because I wanted to watch the Artemis Fowl movie, which was also meant to come out in theaters, and then it didn't because of the pandemic, so they put it up on Disney Plus, and I subscribed just to watch that, but it was only for a month. There's just not much on Disney Plus that holds my interest because most of the movies that are under the Disney umbrella that I rewatch at any point are movies that I own on DVD, usually, like whether they're Disney or Marvel or Star Wars. I own those movies on DVD or Blu-ray, and because of that I don't really need another streaming services. I am a poor student, so I really can't be spending my money on these things all month. It's bad enough that at least Netflix gives me more content that I can continuously watch, so that's a plus on that side, but Disney Plus hasn't given me that yet. So I haven't really been like an early adopter of Disney Plus at all. Like whenever something comes out that I want to see, I will subscribe for a month and then unsubscribe, like you do. So when they announced that Mulan was going to be released on Disney Plus, I thought, well, that's actually not bad. I'll just subscribe for the month, watch the movie, and that's it. And then they announced that not only were they shifting it to Disney Plus, they were also coming up with this thing they called Premier Access, which meant that not only would I have to pay the $8.99 Australian for the Disney Plus subscription, but on top of that I would have to pay 35 Australian for for Mulan, the movie, individually, which is kind of ridiculous. And I know a lot of people like me, a lot of people who are single and like to go to the movies often, just could not afford that kind of thing. And I'm not mad. I wasn't mad that Disney did that. I think they were looking to attract a very specific audience with that price range, because the idea of a Disney movie in theaters is that it attracts families, right? So $30 US or 35 Australian is actually very accessible for, say, a family of even just 3 people. It's a lot cheaper than a whole huge-ass trip to the movies, which costs a lot. For me, if I were alone, it probably wouldn't be cost effective for me, and I wouldn't, as excited as I was about the movie, and as much as I wanted to support it, because, you know, big Asian cast in a mainstream Hollywood movie for pretty much the first time ever, first Disney movie with a completely Asian cast, and, you know, Mulan being one of my favorite movies of all time, I wanted to support it, and I want to give it my money because I like these live action remakes. I know they've gotten something of a bad rap with, you know, critics and even other Disney fans who think their original animated movies are way too precious and can't be touched. I'm not like that. I like remakes. It's true that I will always love the animated versions more, but I actually like seeing new twists on a story that I already love, and I've enjoyed most of the live action remakes that I've seen so far. I mean, what can I say? Beauty and the Beast wasn't really my cup of tea, but it was okay, you know? But then again, I don't like Beauty and the Beast, the original animated movie either, so I guess that doesn't make much of a difference. I really liked Aladdin, actually. I thought it was really great. The Jungle Book, I actually like the remake more than the original movie, but that's because I don't care for the original movie really. It's way older than me, I guess. So it was never one of the big ones for me. I love the Lion King remake. I don't know what the hell is wrong with people, but that movie is amazing. I don't know, like, I loved it. Yes, it was a shot-by-shot remake a lot of the time, but just the amazing visuals of that thing. Like, I was looking at lions actually act out the Lion King. Yes, I know it's CGI. It's a, you know, I'm exaggerating, but they look like real lions, and to me that was like mind-blowing. So I love the Lion King. I thought it was a great remake. And, you know, I've been looking forward to Mulan precisely because it's a new take on something that I already love. So I was looking forward to it. However, the price is a little steep for someone on their own, right? So I understand that. Especially for me, because when I was back home in Panama, the movies are really cheap over there. I mean, don't ask Panamanians, they will tell you they're getting more expensive every year, and it's true, but they're getting more expensive from a lower price point. Like, I would pay what I think if I go to a movie in Panama on like a Saturday night when the theater is packed, you know, back in the days when theaters could be packed. If I do that, it would be like something like $6, $6.50 maybe for a ticket, for one ticket, which is super cheap. In the States and in Europe, I remember when I was living there, it was something like $8 or $9 slash euros, I guess, for one ticket, and that was the student pricing, which I thought was like weird, like super weird, because like if you were just a regular person, then it would be way more expensive. Of course, those prices have since gone up because it's been a while since I was in the States and living in the States and living in Europe. Around here in Australia, it's relatively okay. It's not a bad price. Like, I think I have my membership card for the movie theater, and I pay something like 12 Australian for the ticket, for each ticket at most, which is not bad because it's something like $8-9 US, I guess. It's not a bad price at all. Concessions are always a thing. So, like, I can't go to the movies without popcorn and Coke, basically. And concessions are always more expensive than the ticket. So I started doing calculations in my head. Usually whenever I go to the theater here in Australia, it's something like $12 12 Australian dollars, and plus concessions, it rounds up to something like 24, which is not bad, but it's of course more expensive to pay, 35 plus $9 for Mulan. So it kind of gave me pause, like, should I really, is it really worth it? Or should I just wait until it comes out on VOD, like actual VOD, where I can pay for it and own that movie? And I just have to pay for it, once. I don't have to subscribe to a streaming service on top of that. So it genuinely gave me pause, but thankfully now my brother's here with me. So if we had gone to the theater, both of us, to watch Mulan, back in the days when theaters were still a thing, it would have been something like $48 Australian for both of us, like with concessions and everything. Whereas just watching it at home, it would be something like 44 Australian dollars for both of us, just watching it on Disney Plus. So I thought, okay, worth it then. Like, I'm not like saving money or anything, because really that sounds weird, but just having two people makes it a lot more affordable, and I wouldn't have minded even paying a little bit more, like if it had rounded up to like 50, 52, something like that. I would have been fine with that, because I think it's worth it for me to give my money to this movie, to tell Disney and to tell Disney that I like these live action remakes, and to tell Hollywood that I like seeing movies with diversity in them. It would have been worth it, I think, to pay a little bit more. But fortunately for me, it came out around about the same, so I decided, you know what, I'll pay it. I want to see Mulan. So that's what I did today. I just watched that with my brother while we were having dinner. So I thought, I'm just gonna review it real quick. When I say real quick, it usually turns out to be like an hour, but I'm gonna try to be fast. Just some quick thoughts about the movie, because for the most part I enjoyed it, and I think it was a well done movie, and I would like to see more of these live action remakes, even if I'm the only freaking person in the world who actually likes them. But I said it, I like them. So yeah, let's review the new live action adaptation of Mulan. By the way, I forgot to say, there's gonna be spoilers in this thing. I'm touching on everything in the movie all the way down to the end, so I should warn you of that beforehand.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
First, I have to say, off the top, I like this movie. Again, I like these live action remakes. I know they're going to be different from the original movie. That's okay. I love the original movie. I will always love the original movie. And it's probably always going to be the better movie between the two of them for me. Mostly because of the nostalgia, but also because you can't really recapture that magic, I don't think. But I do like these live action remakes. I wasn't biased against it. A lot of news had come out before the movie's release about the movie and how it would be different from the original, and a lot of people were up in arms about it. I tried my best to just, put those things out of my head. I wasn't going to let, the lack of certain things, which you know what I'm talking about, the lack of certain things bothered me, because I knew this was going to be a new take. They were trying to make a bit of more of a dent in the Chinese box office than the original movie did, because the original movie, people in China did not like it. Okay, they did not like it at all, because it took a lot of liberties with the original legend of Mulan, and I can understand now that the Chinese market is a lot bigger than it used to be in 1998, so I can see why Disney wanted to do it quote-unquote right? So for the most part, in my head as I'm watching, I'm trying not to compare it to the 1998 version, but that doesn't mean I never do. And while I liked it for what it is, I do have to say from the beginning that it felt a little bit like it was the bare bones of the original 1998 story, like the Cliff Notes version, in a sense. And I do have to say that the songs, which of course were missing, that there were no songs. It wasn't a musical. It was just a straightforward action film, mostly. The lack of songs did sort of made it feel a little bit like they were moving from beat to beat a little too quickly. Like you didn't get time for things to like settle, you know? Like you would when there's a huge musical number between scenes. So, like, I appreciate them wanting to make the movie more realistic, and I understand why they would cut the musical numbers if that's the case. I just feel like because they did that, it also made the movie come across as a little perfunctory. Like I'm trying to hit this point and then this point and then this point and then this point, and it just went from one to the other straight through without giving the audience time to like digest everything that was going on. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. I've seen a few reviews, I've seen a few comments on Twitter before I watched it pointing this out, and I have to agree, it really does feel that way. It feels like they grabbed the original plot of the 1998 movie and sort of made like a bullet point summary of it that they were going to hit on and on and on and on. And it really did feel a bit oversimplified. Now I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think they probably needed to do that, to simplify things a lot, because of these huge like action set pieces that they had at the end. So everything that came before that, like all the setup that came before that, had to be really simplified just for budget reasons usually. But yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty noticeable for the movie. The lack of songs itself is not a deal breaker for me. Like I didn't mind, like I said, that they took them out. I understand why they did it. But the thing is, I kept trying to listen for the instrumental versions of stuff, because I think the director Nikki Caro said at some point that they would have instrumental versions of the songs in the background of the scenes. And I kept trying to listen for them, and I never heard any of them other than Reflection. Like that might just be me. Like, don't yell at me in the comments if all the songs were there and I just missed them. That's me. I tend to not pay attention to the music all that much. Like usually I can feel that a soundtrack, that a score has been successful when I don't notice it. That's how I feel it. But this time the thing is that I kept trying to listen for the music, and I never heard any of them other than Reflection. And just being constantly waiting for these songs distracted me from what was actually happening in the movie, and that happened more often than I liked. So that kind of bugged me a little bit. That said, I did miss I'll Make a Man Out of You a lot. Like, I really missed that song, and it felt like such a missed opportunity. Like, even if they just had it in instrumental form in the background, I needed that song somewhere, and I never got it. And also, my brother thought it was weird that they used Reflection for the moment where Mulan, there's a scene where she's carrying water, right? She's carrying buckets full of water up a mountain. And when she finally gets to the top of the mountain with the water, you know, it's signifying that she beat the challenge, basically. They used Reflection for that moment, and it felt, my brother thought it felt out of place. And I mean, I like the song. I don't necessarily disagree with him though, because I really wanted to get I'll Make a Man Out of You, and I never got it, and that's just like, why did you not give me that? As far as the cinematography goes, I mean, just the shots were amazing. Like, whoever the director of photography was for this movie is fantastic. the shots were beautiful, just the scenery, everything was so great. And the production value, so the movie was very bright and colorful, and most of the time I really appreciated it because China always seems so vibrant that way, and I like it. But there were also a few moments where it felt sort of overproduced and too glossy, you know, if you know what I mean, like just too overdone, to the point where it sort of undid this attempt that they were doing of trying to make the story more realistic and grounded, because it felt so much like so theatrical at some points because of the production value of it all. But you know, that's just Disney, I guess. Like it was just especially noticeable in this movie, given that I was watching this for the first time on a smaller screen than I normally would have. Like I kept thinking maybe if I were watching this in a theater, it wouldn't feel like so stark, you know? But it did, and I guess we have to live with that because that's the world we're living in this year. The fights were super cool though, and this is coming from somebody who usually doesn't like fights and doesn't care for fights, but when they're well done, I'm really into them and I really like these. My favorite fight, I think, was the fight between Mulan and Hong Wei. You know, when Mulan finally shows the other soldiers like her super key powers. I thought it was really awesome, but really all the fights were. I also really enjoyed the fights between Mulan and Xianlang. It all felt very Chinese martial arts movie, even though it's technically a Western movie. My brother kept chuckling at them, making all the fights look like a meme. And I was about to tell him off about that, but then I remembered he was too young to have been into the whole Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon craze. So yeah, of course he doesn't get it. And I'm like, that's just the way Chinese martial arts movies are. that's the way they are. That's a thing. So yeah, but it was fun. I really enjoyed that. Some of the CGI was a bit sketchy. I especially remember at the very beginning when Mulan sees like a couple of rabbits running by her side or something, and I'm like, those look like sheep with long ears. It was really weird. But there were a couple of moments like that throughout the movie. It wasn't really enough to be off-putting, but I feel like they could have done better. I mean, they had a huge budget. Like, they could have balanced it out a little bit more. One thing I did love though was the whole fighting with like cloth and scarves thing. Like Xianlang did it, and I think Bori Khan did it as well at one point. Like that looked really cool. I really liked that. It was very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I loved that. Speaking of CGI, like I appreciate the idea of introducing like the Phoenix mythology and whatever, but the Phoenix was basically Mulan's GPS. That's it. That's the comment. Like that's all the Phoenix did, and like it didn't even cry. It didn't even make a sound. Like my brother kept saying that when it flew, it looked like a kite. So yeah, the Phoenix kind of did nothing for me, sorry. I do think they did really well with the characters and with casting. Yifei Liu embodied Mulan really well, and you could see her emotions through her expression and her gestures very clearly. Though at times, I wish they'd let her actually say more. Like, I don't know if this is just the impression that I got, but it felt like we went long stretches of the movie without her actually speaking much. Now this might be in reference to English not being her native language or whatever, but it did kind of underscore the lack of Mushu, because Mushu was a sounding board for Mulan to express her feelings and doubts and insecurities, and not having Mushu there and, you know, not wanting to seem crazy by like talking to her horse or whatever, it kind of made it so that there were long stretches of time where all the input we had from her was just through expression and gestures, and it kind of felt weird. P.S. I freaking love her hair, okay? She's got such great hair. Like, through the whole movie, I just freaking love it.
Quick note I forgot to add when I was recording the video. The whole chi thing was a bit weird, to be honest. Part of the appeal of Mulan as a leading character was that she was just a regular girl who was suddenly thrown into a world of men, and where she was at a disadvantage when it came to strength. She would use her smarts and her instincts to get herself out of difficult situations, and that made her stand out. Giving Mulan superpowers kind of takes away from that. That's not to say it wasn't cool. The Matrix stunts were really awesome, and I understand that this is one of those things they did to appeal to the Chinese market, but it did feel a little like it lost something in translation, so I just wanted to point.
My brother and I did think that her family came across as way more strict on her than they were in the original movie, which was a little jarring. Like, you would think her dad would be a little bit softer, at least, on her. I did really like the scene at the end, though, when she comes back and asks her dad for forgiveness, and he's like, you know, my daughter's the most important thing to me, and they hug, and she cries, and it was really sweet. I really like that. I like the sister, though. Like, I think she wasn't in the original movie, of course, like, it was mom, dad, and grandma, but I think replacing grandma with a sister sort of gives Mulan someone she wants to protect. Like, even before she joined the military, she wanted to protect someone. She wanted to you know, defend someone, like her sister from the spiders and whatnot. And I thought that matched very well with how she grows to care for her squad mates later on. Like, she grows to become a leader, like someone who has people underneath her that she has to take care of and protect. I thought that was really cool. Also, the sister totally ended up matched to Cricket somehow. That's the law. I don't make the rules. I'm just saying. Like, they never said it, but that happened. Xianlang was super cool, and I love the theme that she and Mulan were the same, but not quite. It was a really interesting way to do a woman supporting women storyline, even when the women in question are on opposite sides of the conflict. They understood each other and they respected each other, even though they couldn't fight on the same side. And, you know, I do wish Xianlang's arc had been longer and that she had more screen time, though, because honestly, I had been hoping, kind of, that she'd live to peck Borikhan's eyes out in the end. Just, there was friction there that was never really resolved. And I feel the potential of her storyline was kind of cut short just to make her have this heel face turn and immediate heroic sacrifice, and it all felt a bit forced. I wish we had seen more of her. Like, maybe she could have, instead of dying, we could have seen, like, the hawk afterward flying and, you know, maybe pecking Borikhan's eyes out, because that would have been gruesome, and I love it. I know it's Disney, I was never gonna see that, but it would have been really interesting. Jet Li was just kind of there. I mean, it was cool to see him as the Emperor, it made sense, and he adds the required gravitas just by his mere presence. I just wish he had more to do than just sit/stand around the whole time. At least he did get the one arrow catch, I guess, though, so that's something. Also, I see you there, Ming-Na-Wen! Oh, such a pity that they couldn't include her in a role that actually involved fighting, though, because that's kind of her thing in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I love it! Oh, that was so great. Much ado was made before this movie came out about them eliminating Shang and splitting his character into two new characters, Commander Tung and Hong Hui. No, look, I love Shang as much as the next girl. I love him with Mulan in the original movie, and I was outraged at how they were treated in the sequel, honestly. because, by the way, there's the Mulan 2 in case you haven't seen it. It's not great. But I can sort of see the motivation to handle the love interest differently because of the power imbalance between the two, given Shang's position as her commander, right? It's not really well seen these days to have that power imbalance in our relationship. And yes, I know that they don't actually get together until after Mulan is kicked out of the army, so really he's not her commander anymore. But even if there was some sort of attraction / flirtation there, it's probably best to remove that ambiguity altogether. So, I was okay with them changing it from the get-go. I didn't think it was absolutely necessary, but if that's the way they chose to go, I was fine with it. And you know what? Jokes on the complainers, because splitting the character totally worked. It totally worked. Donnie Yen makes any movie he's in better by his mere presence. Seriously, he just does. And I really love that he felt almost like a parent in a situation where Mulan was probably really missing her own father. And it helped a lot also because her father was a lot more strict this time around than he was in the original movie. So it felt like that supportive father type role was taken over by Commander Tung, and I really liked that. And Hong Hui was quite possibly my favorite character in the movie. Surprise, surprise, it's not like it's unexpected or something. And I think they really did well the progression of him going from being like something of a rival to respecting Mulan's abilities to seeing her as a woman and potential match. It was a very subtle progression, but I think they did it really well, and it felt like a very healthy way of handling the whole rivals to lovers trope in a way that didn't feel forced or toxic in any way, because that trope can be problematic. Let's face it, you have to know how to pull it off, and I think they did it really well in the movie. So I was really happy about that. Speaking of Hong Hui, I can say with 110% certainty that Yo Sun-an has now joined Mina Masood on my list of actors that need to be cast in every movie ever made from now on. Like, seriously, how does Disney keep doing this to me? I did not need a new movie boyfriend, thank you very much. No, I totally did. Yo Sun-an, you're the cutest thing, oh my god, I love you so much. He needs to come to Oz Comic Con next year. Assuming there is an Oz Comic Con next year, thanks for that, COVID. Because I would give an arm and a leg to hear him speak and take a picture with him and stare at him and lie and face to face and possibly maybe stalk him, but just a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna shut up now. One thing I do have to mention is this thing where Hong Hui tells Mulan that she still won't take his hand. Was that a thing? Like, both my brother and I were caught off guard by it, because they made it sound like that had been set up at some point earlier, but we couldn't remember anything like that happening before. Like, did we miss something? Did we blink at the wrong moment, or what? I mean, it was still kind of cute. Though if they ever make a sequel, I would like an actual kiss, or else Chinese market. But I thought it was interesting that it seemingly was some kind of like inside joke or set up, beat that we kind of missed, and now I'm wondering if it was actually there or if I should wait for like deleted scenes or something. Because really it was weird. All in all though, and just trying to keep this short, I just have to say I really like this movie. I liked it. I don't know that it's going to become my favorite of all the live action remakes because I like so many of them. And of course the 1998 movie will always be one of my favorite movies of all time. But I enjoyed this for what it is, and I thought it was a worthy achievement for Disney. I thought it was an important step for women and girls everywhere, as well as diversity in Hollywood, and I thought it was a treat for the fans. So, bring on the next one. Which one is it? The Little Mermaid or something? I think. I'm I'm just waiting for them to do Hercules. Like, seriously, why is Hercules not a thing yet? It needs to be a thing. Underrated movie. If I do say so myself. Like, I'm probably the only person in the world that loves Hercules that much, but I freaking love Hercules. Anyway, yeah, that's about it for my review of Mulan today. So, you know, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you like my stuff, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to see people commenting and sharing and liking and subscribing. It really helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm, so you know all those things are important. Go ahead and do that. In the meantime, you can find me on social media. I am on Twitter and Instagram at girlsareweird with underscores between the words, and on Tumblr at girlsareweird with hyphens between the words. You can find a Facebook page for this vlog at facebook.com/FreakingNarnia. And as usual, be sure to visit my main webpage at FreakingNarnia.com. All my videos are up there. In case you missed any and want to catch up, just go there. It'll be right, you know, in order for you to actually check them all out. So be sure to do that. Also, I'd like to remind you that I have a Redbubble store where I make art based on my favorite quotes from my favorite fandoms. And then you can take that art and use it to decorate all kinds of merch, such as, you know, computer covers, coffee cups, that sort of stuff, t-shirts, lots of things in there for you to do, so be sure to check that out and maybe purchase something if you're in the mood. You know, it really does help me a lot. It pays for my Netflix, if anything. I guess this month it's probably paying for my Disney Plus subscription, I guess, whatever. Also remember that I have a Patreon page in case you want to support this channel and my content. I have a Patreon page at patreon.com/FreakingNarnia. If you like these, if you'd like to have these episodes in podcast form, then that's where you have to go, because up in my Patreon I upload these episodes on podcast form, MP3 form, the exact same day that they go up as videos on YouTube. So if a podcast is more your thing, then you might want to subscribe to my Patreon page. Then you might want to become one of my patrons. So that might be the thing that you do that helps me out the most. And yeah, I think that's about it. It's a serious miracle that I did not make 80 bajillion dishonor on your cow jokes during this video. Honestly, let me just say, because my brother and I, when we were watching the movie, we were basically making dishonor on your cow jokes every 5 minutes. But I guess I managed to rein it in for the review. But I do have to say, you know, be sure to check out all my stuff, or otherwise it will be dishonor for you, for your family, for your cow. That kind of thing. So yeah, that's about it from me today, and I will see you guys next time with another video from all the way in freaking Narnia. Bye. I wish they'd let her actually say much. She's got such great hair. I freaking love her hair. Okay, or I can't. Speaking of Honghui,